How's everybody doing? It's Joe here, and today I've got a new deck analysis for you. So this is going to be a real-life deck analysis. Makes a little bit of a change from PTCGO. And what we're going to be doing is I'm heading off to Dublin in a minute to play some games with some friends, and I'm going to be recording some matches, show off a few games with this Mega Gardevoir Weavile deck. Yeah, it's a really interesting build. I've been working on this one since like the moment Steam Siege came out. The first thing I did with Mega Gardevoir was this was the concept I had in my head, and it just ended up working so fluidly, and this is really what I've sort of built up to at this point. I want you guys to know first that this list is like constantly changing. I think it's really like Vespiquen in a way, because it's got a whole load of room for like text to help it beat certain matchups, but what text you run it with depend on what matchups you think you're going to face and what kind of decks you think you're going to play against. So it's really, there's a lot of personal preference in here, and there's a lot of kind of trying to metagame other people in this list, but I think this one that I have here is prepared for almost all of the metagame, if not all of it. I don't think it has any auto losses at all, which at this point is extremely strong. Not even Scizor is an auto loss. I'll get onto that in a minute. But let's get started with the analysis, and I'll just sort of expand on that as I go. So we're going to start off with 4 Gardevoir from the Steam Siege expansion. I did try the Primal Clash Gardevoir here. It's not as good. There are very few situations when it's useful, and Link Blast is actually a really good attack. It does 30 damage plus 70 more if you have the same energy attached as your opponent's active Pokemon, so it's 2 basic energy. Like that can one-shot a Giratina if they have just a double dragon on them, so there's plenty of uses for Link Blast. It's even just nice at following up a Despair Ray to take a 2-hit KO, so yeah, it's way more useful than Life Leap was. And finally we have 3 Mega Gardevoirs. So this is the main woman, I suppose, of the deck. She is fantastic. Despair Ray does 110 damage, plus 10 more for each Pokemon from your bench that you choose to discard. This becomes really, really good. Not because it racks up in damage, but because it creates a board state that is extremely favorable for you. This is probably the only deck right now, bar like Scizor with really high counts of Parallel City, that can actually stop your opponent from taking like easy prizes on Shaymins. So as soon as you play a Shaymin, you discard it with Despair Ray. And you essentially come to this state where your board is just nothing but Gardevoirs. So you force your opponent to win the game by killing your Gardevoirs, which is quite hard to do because they have 210 HP, and we run a lot of ways to make that even bulkier. So yeah, the Gardevoir is fantastic. That was kind of what I built the deck around. The other thing it has here going for it is a Psychic and Fairy typing, which is really good too, because it means you hit Giratina and Mega Mewtwo for weakness, both 2 really big forces in the deck in the metagame at the moment. Mega Mewtwo is the easiest time you will ever have, I swear. Yes, my cat has decided to join this video too. I really don't control what videos he's a part of, it's just up to him, to be honest. Fine, you can come up if you want. So also it has this Dark Resistance, which is really good. Hey, stop attacking me! Okay, just ignore the cat. It really does diminish the quality of these videos. Anyway, Dark Resistance basically means Dark Giratina, things like that. They're not a pushover, it's closer than you'd think, but because hilariously Darkrai resists you as well because you're Park Psychic type. But it definitely means you're always going to be pushing yourself into 2-shot range, which is exactly where you want to be with this deck. That's what the deck's built around. Steel Weakness is really the only bad thing about it, but we can play around that, and I'll get onto that in a minute. Now, as for laying out these cards, I did practice this again, because I'm always bad at this when I do the real life ones. Let's see. Okay, you know what? That's actually not too bad. Look, they're fitting on screen. I did run through this very briefly before I started recording. Just push them over. Yeah. Okay, that should be fine. You should all be able to see the deck now. Alright, and moving on to the next part of the deck. The coolest part of the deck, the Weavile. The thing that makes the whole thing come together and work so fluidly. So what Weavile does, we run a 2-2 line, obviously this is really all you need. It doesn't need to be any thicker or smaller than this. Tear Away is like the old Masquerain from the Plasma set, which lets you just pick up a tool card that's on your board somewhere. The really cool thing about this is we can pick up Spirit Links and reuse them. So if there's a Spirit Link on our Gardevoir, we just pick it up and put it on another Gardevoir and Mega Evolve that one again, and it means we only need to find 1 Spirit Link to get all of our Megas in play, which is just insanely good. The other thing it lets us do is remove Spirit Links and put on other tools. So we can put on things like Assault Vest, Float Stone, Klefki's Weakness Policy, loads of really, really cool stuff that this deck can do and allow it to be extremely versatile in what it does. Like the whole deck, this originally came about because I wanted just a lot of bulky Gardevoirs in play, and I thought, well, if I had just a board with nothing but Gardevoirs with Assault Vests on, they'd be really difficult to knock out. It would be really difficult to win that game. And it basically ended up being that Assault Vest wasn't as useful as I first thought it was. It's still really good, but it's not useful in every matchup. Like Volcanion doesn't care about Assault Vest, Scizor doesn't care about Assault Vest. But it's still like, there's loads of other tools, especially Klefki, that you can use to make those matchups really, really good. Weavile is just fantastic. It really is. And I've seen people trying it in other mega decks too, and I think it just makes a ton of sense. Being able to pick up Spirit Links is unbelievably powerful, I swear. Next up we have 2 Klefki. Klefki, in case you didn't know, you can bench it, attach it as a tool to one of your Pokemon, and you can't get damaged by Megas next turn. I'm just going to confirm it is damage and not effects of attacks as well. Yep, any damage. So things like Scizor's Iron Crusher would still discard energy from you, which is irrelevant because we don't run special energy, but just for an example. Yeah, Klefki's great. It means Mega Rayquaza is a pushover. It means it can be great against Mega Scizor 2. It can be great against Mega Mewtwo, even though you kind of already win that one anyway. There's just so many Mega decks running around right now. To have a Mega that doesn't get hit by other Megas is just inherently powerful. That's really strong. And also it's a basic Pokemon, so if we just need extra damage, we can just bench it and discard it. Yeah, Klefki puts in the work. Really essential part of the deck, and like I said, one of my favorite cards coming out of Steam Siege. And everything is lining up just fine. Okay, let's start off with the Absol. One Absol, we take a lot of 2-shots. In fact, we only take 2-shots, to be honest. That's the point of the deck. So we can sort of compensate for this by moving some of our damage around. Like, let's say we are trying to 2-shot a Volcanion. That's 180 HP. I think it's 180, isn't it? You know, if we do Despair Ray twice, that's 210, providing we didn't discard anything. We can move 30 over to another Volcanion, take that down to 150. And 150 is a much easier number for us to hit in one turn than 180 is. So it makes it so much easier at sort of closing out games. And of course, like with all these Pokemon, it's a basic Pokemon. You can just bench it and discard it for extra damage. Absol is pretty good. One Hawlucha. I like Hawlucha because it's really either Hawlucha or Ranger that you can run in this, or none. You can get away with either. First of all, I don't think we're hurt by Chaos Wheel, like, at all. You might think shutting off tools is bad, but we just run through Giratinas so quickly that it doesn't even matter. Sudden Cyclone's great though at dealing with Regice because we can send it to the bench, it's on to back up and kill it. And you might think is Ranger not just better, but I'm not really a huge fan of playing Ranger unless it's absolutely like 110% necessary. And the reason for this is that a lot of the time it's just a dead card. It won't help you out in about half of your matchups anyway. And plus, how many Regice are running around right now that's worth just dedicating a whole spot on the list just to deal with Regice, when I feel like I could probably just Lysandre around it anyway. So, Hawlucha I think is a lot more flexible, and again, it's a basic Pokemon. We can discard it, we can do more damage, so I think it makes a lot more sense. Always double checking this order. Yep, I think it's laid out fine. Move the Absol over just a tiny bit. And finally, for Pokemon, we're running 3 Shaymin and 1 Hoopa. The 3 Shaymin makes total sense because we never leave them on our board. So, like, there's no, it's one of the few decks, like I said, that doesn't worry about, like, having easy prize targets on its board, and that's why I wanted to play it in the first place, was like, having, in a format without AZ, not every deck can do that. Gardevoir does it effortlessly. And in a format without Target Whistle, you're not punished for that. You just get rid of your Shaymins, and they're gone, and that's it. There's nothing else to worry about. The 1 Hoopa is great too, obviously, because we have a lot of EX Pokemon. After turn 1, it's not that fantastic, I have to say. Unless you want to find, like, you know, 1 Hoopa to find your regulars and then 1 Hoopa to find your Megas. That's something I guess you could play around with. I think you'd need to sort of increase your Skyfield count then, because you're sort of relying more on finding the Skyfield really early on in the game. Like I said, there's a lot of room to play around with in this deck, and if you want to sort of customize it yourself, feel free. But yeah, 1 Hoopa is fine. On to the supporters, and we are playing for Professor Sycamore. I'm not going to explain that to Anne. Look, we all know why. These cards are here, they're all just good. And to Lysandre. I'm trying to practice that good throaty, like, French or at the end of Lysandre, you know. And to Hex Maniac. So 2 Hex is something that I think a lot of Mega decks are picking up right now at the moment, especially ones that don't have the room or want to commit the room for a Garbodor line. This is no exception. 2 Hex is great with Megas because it allows you to get around Giratina, and it allows you to get around other Klefkis as well, because you can play it and then your opponent can't Klefki next turn. The other reason I run Hex is because, or 2 copies of Hex at least, is because Volcanion was a bit of a tough matchup. And if you're not shutting off their steam ups, they can one-shot you since, well, Hard Charm's gone, which would have been fantastic against Volcanion, to be honest. But without that, I mean, Hex Maniac is the best way you can do it. Silent Lab's also another option if you want to sort of play around it there. But we also run a lot of basics with abilities, so you kind of want to watch out for that. You want to be playing it kind of carefully. 2 Hex is just powerful as well. Like, we already have a good Greninja matchup, now we have an auto win almost against Greninja. Like, seriously, this is a great Greninja matchup, I swear. Mostly just because we're doing like 130 so quickly that Talonflame doesn't stick around for very long. We clear Ferokis really easily, we can just Lysandre up Greninjas and take care of them super quickly. By the time they get into the game, we've got like 4 prizes taken. It's really not that difficult to win. So we've got, let's see, 4 Ultra Ball going into this. And oh wait, I'm not done with the supporters yet. I have 2 more supporters that I wanted to show off. First one's going to be Skyla. And of course I want to show off Skyla. Look at that full art, it's great. Anyway, like Skyla, it's been kind of 50-50 for me right now at the moment, between Skyla and Misty's Determination. You might say, why Misty over Skyla? I like that Misty can find Pokemon without having to find Ultra Ball first. I like that Misty can find Energy. I think there's a lot of merit to running the Misty instead, especially because you discard a card from your hand. That could be an Energy, and then you Misty for a Mega Turbo, and then you've just gone, you know, the combination there is really good. Misty's better than you'd think in this format, honestly. If you're stuck for Draw Supporter and you don't want to put in a third end, go for Misty. It's not a bad idea. Skyla, I like it though, sort of a little bit better, just marginally better. Reason for this is that there's no rant, it's not left to chance. I know what I'm getting with Skyla, and even if you have it in your hand like turn 1, you can just Skyla for Ultra Ball and Ultra Ball for Hoopa, and then you're already doing crazy stuff and you've just played a Skyla. So thanks to Hoopa, you get a lot more value out of it these days. And the other thing, of course, is we run so many one-off item cards that it makes sense that we want to get into them at the right points in the game. So far Skyla's been fine. Pokemon Center Lady has been one of the MVPs of the deck since I put it in. Yes, it got reprinted in Generations, it's still legal, you can still play it. And in a deck that aims to be bulky and aims to heal, Pokemon Center Lady means your opponent's 2 shots turn into 3 shots, like Scizor. If you have a weakness policy down, instead of doing, 240, Scizor now doing 120, you heal 60, it does 120 more, and then it has to still attack again, and you've all of a sudden gone from a 2-shot into a 3-shot, which is just nuts. So Center Lady really putting in the work, actually. I mean, the whole deck's aim is to be bulky, so it just sort of fits in with the theme. Next we got 4 Ultra Ball, and we got 4, well, should have 4 VS Seeker, yeah, there they are. I'm not going to explain these guys, look, we all know how good Ultra Ball and VS Seeker are. It should not need any introduction. 2 Mega Turbo as well. I think 2 is fine, I haven't needed more than that. You could try some kind of weird build with max elixirs, but we're running a really low count of basic energy, it's just 8. So I don't think we'd get the value out of the max elixirs, and I don't want to increase my basic energy either, because I think it's fine as it is. It takes up very little space, we still find it consistently, I have no issue with it. Mega Turbo has been fine. It was 3, but I think 2 is grand. It's a really, 2 energy is not a lot to pay for an attack in the first place. It's really if you just want to start setting up extra Gardevoirs, so you're not, if you can set up 2 Gardevoirs, you're super end proof because you can still just keep attacking. So if you can put yourself in that kind of a position, that's fine, and the Mega Turbos help you do that. The 1 Evosoda, reprinted in Generations, we're still good. You might be thinking, what the hell is an Evosoda doing here? So this is like 50-50 between Level Ball and Evosoda. I'm still kind of choosing between the 2. Level Ball's good because you can find Sneasel, Weavile, Klefki, and Hawlucha. First of all, if Absol had 90 HP, it has 100. Level Ball would absolutely be in the deck, no question. That would be way too powerful to ignore. But Evosoda is in here because it can find Weavile, and importantly, the Mega Gardevoir. So one thing I sort of semi-struggled with in this deck is sometimes not super often, but I'd occasionally miss an attack just because I could not get into my Mega early on enough. And whereas Level Ball doesn't actually help you with that at all, Evosoda will get you into a Mega Gardevoir. It's actually really nice. So not too bad at all. It can help you get the Weavile up. It's been useful in every game I've played with it so far, so I just feel like it's earned the spot. If you don't see the use in it, go for a level ball. 9 times out of 10 when I played the level ball, I was either searching for Sneasel or Weavile, so I figured it wouldn't hurt me that much if I just cut this for an Evosoda. So that's why that's in there instead. And finally for the items, or the straight items, is 1 Super Rod and 1 Buddy-Buddy Rescue. Man, I love Buddy-Buddy Rescue in this deck. Super Rod, obviously, okay, look, we can shuffle in Pokemon. That's good, we want that. But Buddy-Buddy Rescue, what a card. I'm really tempted to up this to 2. It just makes so much sense. Like, you can Gardevoir away, you can play a Shaymin, drop to 6, then Despair Ray, then Buddy-Buddy Rescue, get the Shaymin back, drop to 6, then Despair Ray it away again, which is just stupid good, stupid good. Play Absol, move some damage counters around, Despair Ray it, and then Buddy-Buddy Rescue the Absol back and move 3 more damage counters around. You can reuse Klefki, like, instantly, which is just extremely good too. Reusing Hawlucha if you really want to, it's less useful, but you can still do that. And even if like a Mega Pokemon gets knocked out, and you just promote a non-EX, and just a regular EX, you can then Buddy-Buddy back the Mega and keep going. There's so many uses for Buddy-Buddy Rescue. Really, honestly, one of the best cards in the whole deck. It just synergizes with Gardevoir just so naturally. Anyway, onto the tools. This is where it gets really fun. 3 Gardevoir Spirit Link. I know I said we really only need to find one of these, but, well, that's all well and good, but we still need to find it, you know, in the first place. So you might think, why not cut down to 2 if you can reuse it? Then we'd be more weak to Gardevoir, Garbodor, and then we'd be struggling to find it more often turn 1. We do just need to draw into it sometimes. So 3 count I think has to remain. We've also got 1 Float Stone. We don't really need more than 1 switching card in the deck because we have no targets on the bench to Lysandre up anyway. This is great though. If we start with something that isn't Gardevoir, we can Skyla for this and get it out, which is fantastic. We can also just pay retreat because like everything in the deck has a 1 retreat cost that's not named Hoopa. On top of that, Float Stone is just good because we can slap it on a Weavile, we can move it around. It gives everything on the board for your retreat with Weavile in play, so makes a lot of sense to me. Also have 1 weakness policy. This 1 card will turn your Scizor matchup from impossible into 50-50. It's fantastic. It's amazing the work that this thing can put in. Especially if they're not running Garbodor, and even if they are, it's really not that difficult to Lysandre it up and kill it. It's very possible to do. I mean, it's just a great card. Like, it's only here for 1 matchup, but it works in that 1 matchup. And this is like I was saying about the deck sort of being a big metagame call, and about a lot of the choices in the deck being a big metagame call, is if you think you're not going to play against Scizor, don't play weakness policy. It's that simple. So, that's why it's in here for now. 1 Assault Vest. Oh man, this card's great. We get so much value out of one-off tools in this deck that Assault Vest puts in the work even as a 1 copy. Like against Rayquaza, you get hit, you tank the hit, and you lift off the Assault Vest and you put it somewhere else because now you're going to get killed anyway. Or you lift off the Assault Vest and you just put on a Klefki and Mega Ray can't do anything. Your Mega Ray matchup is fantastic with this list, I swear it is. Anyway. Like, there's plenty of decks going around with special energy. Against Vespiquen, the Vest puts in so much work. Like, really so much work. Yeah, plenty of decks that run special energy. Even against Giratina, if you can get this down early on enough, you just wipe the floor with it. Just anything that has a double colors on it. Assault Vest will just let you survive a turn, and you can reuse it on anything. Perfect card. Really, really good. Even against Rainbow Road, it's pretty great. 2 Skyfields, which we've got going here. I went for Skyfield as the stadium. I don't think you need to run Skyfield. I think a lot of people's idea with this deck is that you want to just go, 4 Skyfield and then like 2 Hoopa and 4 Shaymin and run like super high counts of Pokemon and stuff like that. At that point, I'd rather just be running Rayquaza. I think Skyfield's nice though in the early turns because you do bench quite heavy early on. It allows you to Hoopa for a bunch of Gardevoir and a Shaymin and still be able to bench a Sneasel or still be able to play Klefkis and Absols and stuff like that. So no, I think Skyfield definitely earns its spot. The other stadiums you can run are Fairy Garden. I did not like this. I actually think it hinders the deck more than it helps it. Reason being, if you start with something that isn't a Gardevoir, you want to retreat it so you can start attacking with Gardevoir. But if you have Fairy Garden, like let's say, okay, so turn 1 you attach the thing in the active. Turn 2, you attach to Gardevoir, retreat. now you need to Mega Turbo to get the attack off that turn. But if you pay Retreat, you already have the energy in the discard pile to Mega Turbo in the first place. So it means it's a lot easier to get your turn 2 Despair Ray off. Whereas with Fairy Garden, you don't get to manually retreat, so it didn't make any sense to me. And also after like turn 1, you don't need to retreat anything because you've only got Gardevoirs and 1 Weavile on your board, so it's fine. Yeah, so that's why Skyfield kind of, I thought, made more sense. I also ran Team Magma's Secret Base, which is a really interesting option for this deck. This was better than Fairy Garden, I'll give it that. Basically, with Team Magma's Secret Base, the idea was that every time I bench Pokemon, they get discarded, so it doesn't matter if they have damage counters on them. Whereas my opponent doesn't have that luxury, so everything they bench is going to be reduced by 20 HP. It's a little bit awkward to pull off. Like, in theory it's great, but in practice it doesn't work that well. It works sometimes, and when it does work, it looks fantastic. It's just about trying to time it right, it's just about drawing into it at the right time, and I think a lot of that can just come down to luck, and I don't really want to be relying on luck too much, so I think Skyfield's just the all-round better card to play. But hey, if you're looking for something kind of fun and quirky to play with it, Magma's Base is an option. And finally, for energy, we are just running 8 basics. It is 7 Fairy, and yeah, it is 7 Fairy. One thing that's stuck then behind that card. It is 7 Fairy and 1 Dark. So 1 Dark because Gardevoir's attack is a Fairy and a Colorless. All of non-EX Gardevoir's attacks are a Fairy and a Colorless, which means that we can afford to run 1 energy of a different type because the next one we attach will always be a Fairy anyway. It's a bit like the way Manectric Bats used to run like 1 fighting. So we run 1 Dark so we can attack with Sneasel, which has an attack that does 10 damage and invincibility on a coin flip. It's fine. Like, it's not that great. No, it isn't, but there's literally no downside to us doing this. So we may as well. Also means if our opponent has a Fairy Garden in play, we can still pay Retreat like I was saying earlier, as opposed to having to free Retreat stuff, which is grand. So, Dark's just my choice. You can run Fighting if you want to take advantage of your opponent's Scorched Earth. I don't think that's big enough right now to warrant the space, but go for it if you're feeling like it. You could also run a double Colorless energy, which makes retreating Hoopa easier if you start with it, which I don't think has ever happened to me, like, at all. It means you can Sky Return, which is kind of pointless as well, because you don't have Shaymins on your board ever. And the other thing, the worst thing about double Colorless is that you can't Mega Turbo it, which means it can kind of get just stuck in your discard pile and you can't do anything with it, which sucks. So I would advise against playing DCE, but I think the 1 Dark is fine. Yeah, 8 basic energy seems low, but again, it's not a very hefty attack cost. We're not powering up any other attackers, it's really just a Gardevoir. So we have nothing to worry about like that. Alright, that is going to do it. I'm going to move on to the matches now in a second. Thank you for watching the deck analysis so far. That is the full list, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that sort of you take on board a lot of the other options that I was saying. This is a really strong build. Really, really strong build. It's not built for every metagame, and it might not suit what decks that are popular in your particular area, but it's very customizable, very open to interpretation. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the battle video in just a moment. Alright, so the game we got on show here is going to be myself, of course, on the right. I'm playing Mega Gardevoir, of course. And I'm going to be playing against Carl, who is playing Mega Scizor. So I figured this would be a good matchup to show off because it shows how the weakness policy works and it shows how the Weavile works quite well. And it's a pretty good game. I've watched it back. Everything seems to run fine. There was also another game where I played against Volcanion. The recording did not come in super well on that, so unfortunately I'm not going to show it, but I will briefly explain what goes on while we're setting up here. Volcanion's your most difficult matchup. I lost in the game that was on camera, and it's largely because of the baby Volcanions with the Fury Belts. I mean, it's not too difficult to two-shot a regular Volcanion and get your Hex Maniacs off. The main difficulty is trying to work around the baby Volcanions at the start. So, I don't know, if they have a Fury Belt on, it becomes super difficult to KO them. You have to sort of commit to your resources a lot more. That's definitely a matchup I want to work on in the future, but other than that, I think this deck has solid matchups around the board. So anyway, I'm going first, and I start off with an Absol, and I'm playing Skyla here for Ultra Ball. And now here's a really easy way to tell that your opponent has prized Hoopa, because I'm going to Ultra Ball for just a regular Gardevoir. I believe I also have an N in my hand as well, so I felt comfortable getting rid of the Sycamore in that position. So of course I'm just going to search out the Gardevoir. I really should have checked my deck when I played the Skyla for the Ultra Ball to see if the Hoopa was there. I don't think my decision would have changed though. I think it's still fine just to grab the Gardevoir straight off. And also this gets the Skylight in the discard pile, which means it's easier for me to hit weakness policy later on in the game. So it's not a bad idea all around. My other option there was to Sycamore away my whole hand, but I didn't like the idea because I think I had 2 Megas in hand to start off. The Absol start not too bad as well. You can just Despair Raid away and get a Buddy-Buddy Rescue so you can pull it back in. Not too difficult. I'm going to manually attach to it because it's just the easiest way to retreat it. And of course I got Mega Turbos to set up my turn to Despair Ray. So it's not that big of a deal. So what Carl's going to be looking to do here really is just set up his Scizor as usual. There's no real need for him to sort of go out of his way to right now. I mean, we're just kind of kicking off the game. And as long as he can sort of get Scizors consistently going and consistently attacking, then he shouldn't have too much of an issue. But of course, the one weakness policy is going to be my way around it. I believe Carl does not run Gardevoir, but he has got 2 copies of Hex Maniac in there. 2 or 3, actually, which is pretty nuts. I think it's just the 2. It's a really cool build. It's the one we've been working on of Scizor so far. It's really just for straight consistency, which I think I favor over Garbodor and Crushing Hammers more so than the other builds. It's really just because... and Carl's going to get his Hoopa here, so a little bit better start than I got. Yeah, we favor this one a little bit more because I think with the Crushing Hammers, your consistency goes down by miles. And I don't like running Shield Energy because I feel like you're then weaker to a lot of things that you otherwise wouldn't be weaker to. So the Crushing Hammers are out of the question. I think Garbodor is debatable. I don't mind having it in here. I don't mind not having it in here. I think you're much better against Giratina if you just run the Hex instead. And Hex Maniac is just a lot easier to play, and it takes up so much less space than the Garbodor does. Like, Carl's barely going to miss a beat with his Scizors this whole game, and he rarely ever does because the deck is just that consistent, without all these extra little spaces for stuff. Anyway, so he still hasn't played his supporter, he's going to Shaymin for 4 more cards. I believe he has a couple of proxies in the deck, but we were just playing for fun. This obviously wasn't a tournament or anything, so if he does play one of them, I'll just explain what it is on camera. So again, he's got his attachment for the turn. He's probably just going to look to try and get a Spirit Link down here. He's got the Hex Maniac in hand. It can stop me from playing Shaymin next turn, really. That's the only thing it'll stop him from, so it's not too bad. I'm going to attach to the Gardevoir. And just double check his discard pile here, I think. So again, I'm probably going to try and get in another Gardevoir. This is kind of where I want to get a Sneasel down this turn. If I don't get the Sneasel down now, it's going to be much harder for me to get the weakness policy thing going and stuff like that. So it's really important that you get the Sneasel down as early as possible, which is another debate for playing Level Ball instead of Evosoda. But I still stand by the Evosoda. I hope I use it in this game. I can't remember if I do or not. I used it a couple of times last night, but I cannot remember if it comes up in this particular game. So anyway, I'm going to play the N here. Shovel in that other Mega that I had in my hand. I could have just evolved to end turn and then tried to attach the... the weakness policy from there. But that's risky, because if he has Lysandre, I get set back so far. So I felt like I may as well play a little bit safer. And he did actually have Lysandre in hand, so... I mean, he would have needed, like, Lysandre Spirit Link energy, but I wouldn't say that's out of the question for him to get it. So I felt like it was the safer play just to play the end there. Alright, and you do see the weakness policy actually comes out here, so I think I'm tempted to attach it. I think I do actually miss the Sneasel this turn, which is a little bit of a bummer. Still going to attach the weakness policy, though. The Hawlucha in my hand is something I have to question. Do I play it right now, or do I save it? And I think I save it, because otherwise Scizor's second attack can come up and do some decent damage. Because he'll send the Scizor to the bench, and he can Float Stone whatever he happens to promote, and then just retreat and use Scizor's second attack, without even having to Mega Evolve, and he'll still be doing enough damage to KO the Absol, and enough damage to two-shot my Gardevoir. So I don't really want that happening right now. I think I'll save that until he does get the Mega, so it's okay if it's on the bench. So I believe this is a Max Elixir he's playing at the moment. And he does indeed find the energy. I believe he said to me at the time that he had like 3 energy in hand, so he was quite surprised to hit that, but hey, it came off. Max Elixir again is another card that you can kind of debate in Scizor. Again, I think I prefer it as well to Mega Turbos. It's just the early game is so much easier with Max Elixir. I've kind of gone for a small split. I think it's like 2 Max Elixir, 1 Mega Turbo on my own build. Maybe I should profile that sometime in the near future. I'll see about that. It's not super different to other people's Scizor lists, so I'm not sure how much demand there would be for it, but I don't know. I might give it a look. Okay, so he does find the Spirit Link. And it does mean we're probably going to see an Iron Crusher this turn. 120 is, of course, enough to knock out the Absol. Cool thing about this is, if he has 2 energy on it, it means Link Blast does 100 damage, so I can still two-shot the Scizor that way. He can't one-shot me because I got the weakness policy on, and it gives me a turn to find my Weavile, or to find the Sneasel and get that down on the board as well. So he's going to Mega Evolve and take the knockout on this Absol here. I believe he Team Flare Grunted. I think the only reason he did that was to get it in the discard pile. I don't actually disagree with that at all. I mean, if you're not going to play another supporter that turn, you may as well. And especially without Battle Compressor, when he knows I have N in my discard pile and I can play that at any time. So I am gonna Hawlucha, and he's gonna promote this one, which is fine for him because now if I do Link Blast, we don't have the same amount of energy attached to each other. So I'm only doing 10 damage because he resists Psychic. And I believe I played Sycamore there. Yeah. Again, still looking for that Sneasel, which is a big hindrance to me so far. I do have Pokemon Center Lady in hand though, and that could definitely help me out. The Spirit Link is there too. It's all just a matter of getting that Sneasel on the board as quickly as I possibly can. I'd ideally like to get 2 down at the same time. That way, it means that he can't just Lysandre it up and kill it from that point onwards. I believe I'm just going to attach here. Yeah, and I'm going to bench the other Gardevoir. It's a risky move in a sense because if he does have Lysandre, it just gets KO'd super easily. So I'm actually going to take that back. Or I might. No, I'm not. Okay. Yeah, we're, again, like I said, this isn't a tournament, so we're just kind of playing super casually. So it doesn't it's not a huge deal. I am going to Link Blast for 10, I believe it is. Yep, it's just 10 because he resists Psychic. It means a lot of the time you're probably going to be 3-shotting Scizors, but if they've got Hoopas and Shaymins on their bench, they're easy targets to kill as well. And you can 2-shot a Scizor. It's not that difficult. You just sort of need to commit a little bit more to get it done. So Carl's in a pretty great position here. I mean, if he finds Float Stone, he doesn't need to do much. Wow, he is actually just going to... Doesn't have a supporter in his hand, so he is actually just going to use Scizor's first attack, which will reduce the damage I do by 20, so Link Blast is going to do nothing. Committing a second energy for the extra damage wouldn't really be worth it there. I suppose he could have manually retreated and gone for the Mega Scizor. But really, he's not under any pressure. He's not under a rush or anything like that, so he has time just to sort of sit back. I'm debating where to put this energy because I'm thinking I might try Gardevoir's second attack here, but it will only do like 80 damage thanks to resistance and the effect of Scizor's first attack, so probably not worth a whole other commitment on the attachment. Then I am going to Shaymin for a little bit, and I do find the Sneasel finally. Yeah, he's out, so I can start rolling now with it. Not the most explosive of starts, but it wasn't too bad. So I do have the Pokemon Center Lady in hand, and I think I might play it here this turn. Really just easing up the Gardevoir. I've got Hex Maniac too, so I'm contemplating which one's better. Of course, with my Skyfield in play, he can still play his other Shaymin, or his other... I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 Shaymin. But he can still play them, thanks to my Skyfield being up, so... It makes it a little easier. And he does draw the Shaymin, actually. So maybe I should have played that Hex Maniac. Yeah, life. I'm not sure if I missed that. That Scizor with 40 damage on it. I'm not sure if that should have had 40 damage on it. Should it? Because then I would have done... Oh no, did we miss... Because that Scizor now has 40 damage on it. That would have been 10 plus the 30 from the Life Leap. Okay, I'm not actually sure why we put 40 damage on it. I don't think it ends up being relevant. That is a mistake on our part, but... I believe it should have just been like 10 damage. Or 0 damage even, because it has the resistance as well. Yeah, I just forgot to factor that in. Hopefully I didn't miss that. But look, it isn't relevant in the grand scheme of things, I assure you. So hopefully that won't be an issue. Anyway, he does of course manually retreat. He goes into the Mega Scizor. I've got my Pokemon Center Lady in there if I want to heal up. Super Rod's going to shuffle me in, back a few things. And more importantly, I've got the Weavile in play now, so we can start conserving our tools and stuff like that. So I start putting in the Absol, a Mega Gardevoir, and a Fairy Energy, and then I'm going to play N. Kind of sucks they had to play N because he did have a pretty dead hand. But, and Carl's also conscious that he doesn't want to bench too many Shaymins because that's a really easy way for me to win. He really just wants to hit Parallel City, like right now, so that he can remove Hoopa and Shaymin from his own board. He doesn't want to commit too many of them, and then, yeah, like for me to take some knockouts, and then him just to be left with a decent amount of Shaymins on board, so it's a little bit safer for him to play like that. Alright, so it does look like I have the Mega in hand, and thanks to Weavile, I can just remove... looks like I'm going to stick to it and put the Mega on the back. I think I have Float Stone in hand as well. We're just going to put the weakness policy on the Weavile. It doesn't really matter, I could just move it to the hand either, but I think I'm going to Shaymin for some more cards here. Yeah, and the camera hopefully can capture all of Skyfield. So I'm going to bench another Gardevoir, and then we're going to play a Shaymin. And this is where Skyfield kind of really comes in handy, is when you're still trying to get the Despair Ray off, and you need to commit a lot on your board. Like, you still want to be powering up other Gardevoirs, you still want to be playing things like Weavile, Hawlucha, and Absol, but you also, on top of that, need to be playing your Shaymins. And the Klefki is going to come in super handy here, so I can attach that actually up to my own Gardevoir. I think, am I going to pay retreat here? I think I have Float Stone in hand, I just forgot about it right there. Yes, I do have Float Stone in hand. Okay, so I'm obviously going to Float Stone. We're going to retreat into this Gardevoir. And seeing as how he has a Scizor on the bench with 1 energy, I'm not going to Klefki, I'm going to Weakness Policy instead. Because otherwise, he could put the Klefki on... he could just manually retreat, go into that Scizor on the bench, and then take the KO with Scizor's second attack. And that would be kind of terrible for me. So I'm going to Despair Ray away 3 things, I think, which ends up being 1 thing thanks to resistance. So it's 120 damage, which is okay. It should be able to put him in 2-shot range easily enough. And I'm going to Klefki my benched Gardevoir there too. Just in case he has a Lysandre, I want to sort of protect that as much as I can. So you can see how Weavile is just working wonders here. The fact that I could just remove that Spiritling and stick on a weakness policy instead does crazy stuff. So yeah, I believe that was 110 damage is what I did to that. No, 120, yeah, my mistake, 120. Anyway, he's going to Mega Evolve that one on the bench, so now I feel more safe about using my Klefkis. Although knowing that he's running Max Elixir, it is still kind of a risk. He's going to Pokemon Center Lady and heal up his Scizor, which is very frustrating for me, because now we're definitely in 3-shot range. And he's still got the 120, but of course, I have my own Pokemon Center Lady in my discard pile, so Klefki gets removed because it's the end of the turn. Not sure what I'm benching here. It's another Sneasel, okay. And I'm going to VS Seeker. I think I debate this a little bit between VS Seeker, Skyla, a couple of other options I have, like Lysandre for just an easy KO. But I think in this point, I don't mind just playing the Pokemon Center Lady, because at this it means that I'll get the KO on his Scizor before he gets the KO on my Gardevoir, so I don't really mind it too much. So we're going to Center Lady and heal back down to 60 damage. I do have a Mega Turbo in hand, no real point me playing that right now, so I'm just going to Despair Ray away 1 Sneasel. Debating if I'm going to Despair Ray away this thing or not. Is there an advantage to me doing it? I guess not really. I go up to 100 damage as opposed to 90, so I get the KO either way. I think I'd rather leave it on the bench for now. Once I start getting the other Megas down, Weavile will have done this job and I can just kind of remove it. In case you are wondering, yes, that is a Gardevoir Spirit Link on the Weavile. And he top decks Sycamore, which is pretty nice. I think he's debating if he wants to Ultra Ball for a Shaymin or if he just wants to play the Sycamore. I think the safer play is just to play the Ultra Ball to Sycamore and go for it. I mean, the Mega isn't... It's great, but it's not as relevant as it would be in other matchups, since the baby Scizor can... the regular Scizor can still put in the same amount of work. It doesn't look like he gets a ton of things to work with there from that hand. I didn't see it super well. We get another look here. Well, he has the energy and he has a Trainer's Mail, so he can dig for Parallel City. That's what he really needs to find here. And again, he misses the Parallel City. I believe that's another Max Elixir he has there. He does own these cards. They're just in different decks. We do this a lot, actually, and I'm sure you guys do too. So he's going to take VS Seeker, just to sort of give him more options next turn. Where this attachment goes is interesting. I believe it should just go onto a bench Scizor. I think he's going to hold it for now. Maybe he already attached this turn and I just didn't see it. So anyway, we go up to 180. But this is where Klefki's going to start putting in the work. And maybe if he had taken that Max Elixir, but he has already gone through quite a lot of energy, so the odds of it hitting were less likely. So this is where Klefki is actually going to start putting in the work, because I can put a Klefki on Gardevoir now and be a lot safer than with the weakness policy. And I can start conserving the weakness policy too. I'm going to flick through my discard pile here. Not quite sure what I'm looking for. I think I have a VS Seeker in hand or something, and I'm debating what to play. Yeah, I'm just going to Sycamore. Getting rid of the Mega Turbo is not that big of a deal. I think I was actually just checking the discard pile to see if I had an energy to Mega Turbo on in the first place. I don't know, sometimes I'm in those positions where I'm like, I have the Mega Turbo and the Sycamore, I may as well put a third energy on, because you never know when that'll come in handy. And plus I've already gone through my Super Rod, so I can't recycle it in any other way. But there was no energy there, so... Anyway, I would love to start hitting my other Megas, and with the Shaymin in hand, I can at least try and do that. So, Spirit Link is second Weavile. Can't Mega Evolve that, unfortunately, but, you know, I can try. And I believe I have Buddy-Buddy Rescue in hand right now to get back a Klefki, which is super cool. He can get back one Mega Scizor, that's all he has in his discard pile Pokemon-wise. And I'm personally okay with that. That was actually me. I thought I was playing the Buddy-Buddy Rescue there, but instead I put the Lysandre down. So, not great, but it works. And we're going to take the knockout on the Scizor here anyway, so he's going to have to get back his Scizor. And I'm going to obviously take back my Klefki. And now I can Shaymin for, I believe it's 4 more cards. I'm not sure if the video is stuttering on your guys' end. It's just a tiny bit on my end, but it's okay. It's still very watchable. Okay, so I can Mega Evolve there. I'm going to Mega Turbo. I believe I actually don't have any energy in my discard pile, and I just made a mistake here. So no, I'm going to have to take back that Mega Turbo. I can't play it even for nothing, because you know it will fail, since the discard pile is public knowledge, so it has to go back into my hand. But that's not too bad. Maybe if I had have manually retreated that Gardevoir earlier as opposed to Float Stoning it, then it would have worked. I'm not sure. That's something you have to sort of debate, is trying to get the most out of your Mega Turbos when you run a low energy count, and obviously Battle Compressor's gone. So I'm going to remove the weakness policy, and I'm going to reattach this Klefki. Or I'm going to Float Stone, am I? Well, I'm going to think about it. That's what I'm going to do. I think, no, the obvious choice here is just to put the weakness policy on my other Mega Gardevoir. And then to put the Float Stone, and then to put the Klefki, I mean, on my active Gardevoir. There's also the option that I could, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. The other option here is that I could retreat that Gardevoir and then Despair Ray it away, so it wasn't an easy prize target. Carl's going to actually come up with something really clever here, so you'll see a nice way to play around the Klefki in just a second here. So I probably should have just manually retreated it and discarded it. I'm not sure. So anyway, I take the knockout, Despair Ray away all the Shaymins I just benched. And Despair Ray away is actually one of the more fun tongue twisters you'll end up saying in the Pokemon trading card game, as I have discovered. So actually, Carl does have a pretty cool idea up his, pretty cool trick up his sleeve here. So Scizor's first attack does 20 damage and prevents 20 done to it next turn. So essentially what he can do here is he can use that and hit me for 40, plus the 180 that's already on me is a knockout, and I did not see this at the time. And it gets through Klefki, obviously, because you're just hitting it with the basic. Or, actually, he's not going to do that just yet. He's going to Lysandre up my other Gardevoir on the bench and just take an easy knockout on that. So the Scizor play is coming up soon enough. That's also a pretty solid idea. I just get some easy prizes down. Anyway, I put my 1 Dark Energy on the Gardevoir. I probably should have put a Fairy Energy on it instead, just to save it, just in case I could attack with the Weavile at some point. Am I going to switch that around? No, okay, that's what I was doing. Yeah, I'm going to Mega Turbo to it. That makes a lot more sense. Again, I swear I don't play like this at tournaments. I swear. So, now I can attach the Dark Energy to a Weavile, which is pretty cool. I'm going to play another Klefki, which is in my hand. Third Klefki out of 2 Klefkis. You do get a lot of use out of them thanks to the Buddy-Buddy. I forget if Dragonite can grab any Pokemon or just EXs. But Dragonite from Evolutions will probably end up replacing Buddy-Buddy Rescue. Since it's a Pokemon that does the same thing, I don't know. A little more weak to Garbodor that way, but it's still worth thinking about. So I'm going to put the Klefki on the Gardevoir, and here we're going to see that cool play that I was talking about just a bit earlier. And I believe I also am going to attach a Dark Energy to the Weavile, and then we're going to do my, I believe just 90 damage, or I might get rid of the one of the Weaviles that doesn't have the energy on it. I completely missed... Or I'm going to Lysandre Hoopa, actually. Yeah, and this is where I can start storming ahead in the lead, because he's got a Shaymin on his bench, and he can't parallel city it away unless he benches something else now. So it becomes a lot easier to do. With the second Gardevoir setup, we're all ready to go. So he still has 3 prizes left to take, I just have 2. Looks like he is going to send up the Mega. And he is going to play the Skyla, I believe. So it's a bit late to be getting the Parallel City out. It's unfortunate that he missed it when he did. I believe he runs 2. The Cobalion as well could have helped him out in this game a little bit towards the end. But it still wouldn't have played around weakness policy. It would still be two-shotting me. So not too much. It gets around the Klefki, but he can still get around the Klefki, as you'll see now. So he's just double-checking which way the Parallel City works. And at this point, he's going to Parallel City me, so it's less likely that I can hit things like Shaymin. Because I believe I do still have one left in deck. I can't remember what our conversation was right there. I'm really not sure. It's I was asking him, is he sure he wanted to play the Parallel City that way, and he was like, yeah, there's no point. And looking at his hand, yeah, he can't find another Pokemon and still get the Parallel City out, so. Looks like he is going to manually retreat and go back into the Mega Scizor and take the knockout that way. I think he only thought of this like halfway into the turn as well, so. It doesn't matter in the end because I do have Mega Scizor for Lysandre in my hand, so I can still take the KO on this Shaymin on the bench and win the game that way. But this is still a really cool little interaction that he will take there. That we are just adding up the numbers, and that, yeah, 40 damage is just enough to take the knockout around the Klefki. So I'm just going to go into Weavile because it's a Float Stone, because why not? And then Mega Scizor for Lysandre for the game. And that's how the Mega Scizor matchup tends to go. Is it trickier when they play Gardevoir? Not really. Like, you can just Lysandre up the Gardevoir. It's really not that difficult. You kill it in one hit. And with the weakness policy, you're still forcing them to take quite a while to actually knock you out in the first place. So yeah, it's not that big of an issue. Anyway, that has been the Gardevoir deck analysis. Thank you so much for watching. And shout out to Carl for letting me play him on screen. And also shout out to Gamers World in Dublin for letting me record in the first place. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed this format for videos, and I'll try and do more in the future. Can't be as often as I do the PTCGO ones, since this is a little bit more effort. But hey, it was still fun to do, and hopefully it was fun to watch too. Alright, thank you for watching, and I will see you